Hello, my name is Matthew, and I just saw a really great tag today. It's called the Reading Tastes tag, and I first saw it on Brian's channel, Brian from Bookish, and I also saw Steve Donoghue's video. And it was originally created by Sophia's Thoughts, and it's just a really great list of questions um, to give an idea of somebody's reading sensibilities. So I thought I would just go through the questions and tell you what I think. And the first question is, what is your favorite genre? And for me, it's pretty simple. It's just fiction. I love storytelling and stories, and most of my reading life um, has been fiction. Fiction. It's just really great stories, and um, even though I want to kind of broaden from that and read nonfiction and read more history and biography, um, not only am I um, comfortable reading fiction, um, there's an attainable challenge that I constantly find. So I feel like I get to exercise my mind in a realm that I feel comfortable in, if that makes any sense. I just love really great stories, and there's so many different ways that somebody can tell a great story. So it's full of surprises, and I'm always excited to find a new great story. Question number two is, what is the most difficult genre for you to read? And at the moment, the most apparent answer for me, or something that's on the forefront of my attention anyway, is history. Um, Earlier this year, I wanted to make an effort to read Roman history, and I bought all these books by Livy. And I read the first book, and even though I enjoyed it, the my own deficiencies became so apparent, and it became less enjoyable. And I know that for it to work, in order for that um, enjoyment to be a part of my reading when it comes to history, is just practice. I have to just keep um, reading things that I'm interested in, for all of those little bits that I know and patches to start kind of stitching together. And I really I'm just really limited in um, the little bit of knowledge that I have. So I don't bring much to the table. Um, I want to make an effort to change that, but it's difficult because it's a genre that I know I want to be better in. So although um, maybe YA books would be difficult for me to stomach, I don't have a big interest in learning more about that world. As an example, right now I'm reading um, The Coming of the Third Reich by Richard Evans, and so far it's been fantastic. It's about um, World War II, and as I'm reading it, so it's about the Third Reich, and Richard Evans starts talking about the Second Reich, and I know this is stupid, but I didn't really realize that there was a Second Reich. I was reading it and went, Second Reich? And I I know how bad that sounds, and you can make fun of me if you would like, but I guess maybe recognize I'm volunteering this information. Uh, it just kind of hits me in the head of how little I really know. Like, if something's called the Third Reich, clearly it makes sense that there was a Second Reich. It turns out there really wasn't a First Reich in any sort of formalized way, but anyway, yeah. So the Second Reich. What is your preferred age range? I don't really know what the question means. Really, anything adult. I do like trying to punch above my weight. I constantly try to read things that, at least in fiction anyway, feel like a challenge. And I like to, I do my best to try to make that recognition that if I don't understand something, it's not necessarily because it's bad or that the author did something wrong. I try to figure out what I can do to bring more to the table. That kind of goes back to what I was just saying about history, but I don't have enough tools to do that with history. Whereas in fiction, I know I'm confident enough at this point that I can get there if the author can meet me halfway, if that makes sense. So I don't know about age range, but I do want to challenge myself and read things that more mature readers than myself would be enjoying. Question number 4. Are you a character-driven or plot-driven reader? And I think for everybody, it's a mixed bag. It's going to be some spectrum in the middle. In order for me to enjoy a story, I have to care about the characters. If I really love a character and the story falls flat, I can feel really disappointed. Like there was such a great potential for a good story and it didn't come through. I would say I normally tend towards a character-driven or a psychological novel. If it feels too story-driven, I can start to feel like I would have rather this had been a movie. It's taking up too much of my time to tell a story that I could have been told in 2 hours, I guess. Question number 5. Do you have a preferred perspective? So that's first, second, third perspective. And I don't really care. If I'm involved in a novel, those devices sort of go away. I would say probably most of the novels that I read are third person, but there's so much you can do in first person, and I love tricks or surprises. So I just kind of recently, like within the past couple months, I read a novel called A Horse Walks into a Bar by David Grossman. And it wasn't a great book, but maybe a quarter through the novel, you felt like it was third person, and then a quarter of the way through, you find out that it's first person. And so this new perspective sort of pops out, and you realize, no, there's one person telling you this story from one distinct perspective. And that one thing worked really well in the book. It sort of made you sit up a little bit and go like, well, okay, I have to get my bearings again. What's going on? I love the beginning of Madame Bovary. It's either the first sentence or first paragraph or page or whatever, but very, very early in the beginning of the book, it starts off with we, and it talks about the school children in this classroom. And it's an example of just being a little jarred by the perspective in the story. Like we, like who are we? As a reader, like I now kind of feel included. Uh, Another example of one of my favorite books is the Karamazov brothers, or the brothers Karamazov, where the perspective is kind of murky. It's third person, but sometimes you feel like the town itself has a voice, but I guess it's third person omniscient. I don't really ever know what those mean, but uh, the range or the scale of the voice that is speaking kind of moves around in a way, and I guess that's an option afforded to third person that first person narration is restricted by. Though first person can be really great in how personal and intimate it can be, so it's up in the air. Number 6, do you have a preferred tense? So past tense, present tense, or future tense, and I don't ever really think about it. I imagine it's all written in past tense. If I've ever read a book that was present tense, it doesn't immediately come to my recollection. So I'm just going to say past tense. Question number 7. Do you like a series or a standalone book best? And since I can't even think of a favorite series of books that I've read, it just is a standalone book. There's I like that they are self-contained stories. I've read books where characters reappear, or authors that have a large network, a big world that they've created, but I don't know if I've read it in one of those books that, or series of books that's 4 volumes or 8 volumes or 10 volumes to kind of finish a whole story. I guess that's really common in science fiction or fantasy. Maybe YA does it. I don't know. So I prefer just one really good novel, I guess. And if characters reappear, it's a great nod or a fun thing to come across, but I'm not really interested in a story hinging upon something that was discussed or developed in a prior book. And I'm not a big fan of cliffhangers. Even within a book, if chapters start ending with cliffhangers, I get annoyed really quickly. It feels kind of insulting that an author has to pull a trick like that to think that that's what I need to keep engaging with a story. There's so many other ways to keep my interest instead of, is the person going to fall off a cliff or not, and things like that. I don't even like that in television, really. Netflix does that a lot, where you have a new 10 episode thing comes out, and every episode ends in a cliffhanger, and every beginning of each episode starts with kind of brushing it aside and saying, no, that really wasn't as significant as we thought. We made you think it was going to be at the end of the last episode. It just feels cheap. Which would you rather, long or short books? And I feel like most people that read a lot, one of the best experiences is picking up one of those big tomes, a big fat book, and feeling intimidated, or just being unsure about what you're going to get yourself into, if you're going to be able to finish it, a feeling like that, and then to get in the book, to become totally engrossed and immersed, and at the end of it, feeling like you wish it was longer. Not that it ends with feeling like it was short, but going like, gosh, it could have been twice as long. It was so good, so well told. To me, that's one of those magic feelings that I'm constantly going after, and that feeling isn't specific to a long book. It's most noticeable in a long book, but you can feel that at 200 or 300 or 500 pages. 200 pages, it kind of makes sense. If it was great, you can think, gosh, that could have been 300. 1,000-page book, and you finish it and think, I wish it was longer. That's really a feat in my mind. And the opposite side of that for me is having that experience, knowing what that feels like, and then to read a 150 or 200 page book that's a slog, hard to get through, feels long. It's just the worst. That's a feeling that those great long books really punctuate in those bad short books. Which format do you like best? And this year, I bought an e-reader earlier in the year, and my attitudes towards this question have changed dramatically. As far as the experience of reading, the e-reader just surpassed any expectation that I might have had. And I had several reservations, but just the experience of reading words on a page, it has a way of eliminating every distraction. The heft of the book, or the lighting, changing the angle of the pages as you're reading it, flipping the pages, annoyances, the size of it, if it's hard to read because it's small, a small font size. It just, one by one, takes away anything that might annoy you about reading a book, and just leaves you with just these little black marks that are filling your head with ideas. And I've been amazed by how much I enjoy my e-reader. That being said, just last week I was at the bookstore looking for Shakespeare's sonnets, and I knew that was something that I could download on my e-reader, and for free if I chose. But a collection of poetry, Shakespeare's sonnets, or any complete works, the complete works of Coleridge or W.B. Yeats or Tennyson or whatever, I do want to have a big fat volume that I can flip through, and maybe through coincidence or fate come across poems that I've missed before, or hadn't appreciated in the same way, and go back to them and have an experience that downloading the complete works of Shakespeare's plays or sonnets or Yeats or whatever wouldn't really allow me. So there definitely is no one definite, this is the way that I want to consume my books. Most of my reading is with paperback, but occasionally there's a beautiful hardback that I want to have. So um, I guess to say all of that, most of my reading is paperback. I've been pleasantly surprised with the e-reader, and hardbacks feel special. Um, what are you currently reading? So uh, I have a hardback and then an e-reader, e-read book. So right now I'm reading The Lesser Bohemians by Amir McBride, and um, maybe a quarter of the way through, and it's fantastic. She's this modern kind of experimental writer that at the start of the book it feels like a cloud, this big hazy fog that you have to spend time kind of deciphering and figuring out, like, how are her sentences working? Like, are those really sentences? Is she cutting it up in a strange way? Like, are those periods supposed to be there? Who's talking? Like, how is the dialogue working? So she kind of subverts all of these expectations that you might have with the way that books are traditionally laid out, and she kind of sucks you in. It's not dissimilar to trying to read Chaucer or Shakespeare or a Victorian novelist, in the way that if it's not your normal way of uh, communicating or consuming language, there's these notches of effort that you have to put in order to kind of get on the same standing as the author. And even though it's kind of modernist, it has that same feeling where you kind of read it, and then when it clicks, you're just sucked in, and it's great. It doesn't matter that it's brand new, or if it was um, a book by Jane Austen or something. It has the same effect, and it feels, it has that special feeling that you get when you do click with a Shakespeare play or something. So I'm really happy about it so far. And then I'm reading a history book on my e-reader, and this is The Coming of the Third Reich by Richard Evans. I'll show you, I don't know. And I've been reading this each night for the past few nights, and I've been so thankful that it's readable. I'm able to understand the story that he's telling, and it feels comprehensive. He's not talking down to me or writing as if it's a general reader that doesn't know anything. But in the same way, he's able to talk to me eye to eye while also telling the story that he wants to tell. It's nonfiction. Tell the story that needs to be told. Um, I'm nowhere close to even um, making a dent in the novel or in the history book, but I do feel like the author is companionable, and um, maybe has some sort of recognition that um, I need help along the way, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. And like I mentioned, I'm already learning things. There's a second Reich. So, anyway, um, I'll tag a few people. I think Brian tagged Tripp Reads, and I just want to um, add that or reinforce that. Tripp is a frequent commenter. Um, I know most booktubers are going to be, the booktubers that I watch are familiar with Tripp's comments, and a lot of viewers are going to have seen his comments. But he recently started a channel, and I think he has 2 videos at the moment, and they're great, really good. interesting, just everything you want from one of these book channels where someone's telling you what they think. It's just really good. So Tripp Reads, and it's Summer from Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. We both are cat parents, so that's pretty great. I'd love to hear Summer's answers to these questions. And then Jack from the Rambling Raconteur, I think he recently hit 500 subscribers, and he's doing a Q&A. I still have to kind of think of a good question for him, but it's an exciting milestone, and it's extremely well deserved. Jack just talks about his reading experience in a very intelligent, personal, interesting way. So I know I'll be very interested to hear his answers, but it's just going to be very well done for everybody to enjoy. So that's it. This is kind of long. It was the Reading Tastes tag, created by Sophia's Thoughts. Leave a comment if you would like, and thank you for watching.